All right, so I'm doing Iron Claw. I'm gonna keep this one a little snappy because I don't I'm tired. So it's about basically this family of wrestlers called the Von Erichs. That's not their main name. Their old name was something else. And apparently they considered themselves to have some sort of curse and like bad things happen in their family. And basically throughout the course of the film, each one of the brothers kind of just slowly dies. Each one of them like dies in different ways, involving usually suicide or something, kind of like some sort of like anxiety or depression related thing. And overall, the film has a heavy focus on toxic masculinity and just like the kind of standards we had placed upon men and still do, and how it's not a very good thing. Things I liked, I thought for the most part, it was a pretty heartfelt film. It was definitely a depressing one. There was very little happiness in this movie, which take that as you will. If you're looking for a good fun time, do not watch this movie. It is a very like depressing one. It focuses heavily on like male suicide and stuff like that. I thought the story overall was pretty good. I liked the characters. Zac Efron plays Kevin. I think he did a pretty good job. Overall, the acting for him wasn't bad. Things I didn't like. The acting at some points, people might disagree with me. I thought the acting was very like bad at some points. Like it was like, what are you saying? Like it was very dry and bland delivery in like pretty emotional scenes, and it kind of took me right out of it. Especially in the final scene, and I'll get back to this when Kevin's like crying watching his sons play with each other, and he says basically like, "Oh, I should be crying," and then his son's like, "It's okay, we all cry sometimes." And he says it almost exactly like that, and I thought, okay, I know it's a child actor, but still, it kind of took me out of it. Yeah, so overall, Iron Claw, I thought it was good, very very solid film, but my main qualms are kind of just it kind of handles the whole story and it kind of not it's respectful enough, but it completely admits one of the brothers named Chris, who was the youngest, and he also killed himself and also died, and they completely admitted him from the story, which kind of made the actual Kevin Von Erich pretty mad because I don't even know if I said this before, but this is based completely on a true story of a true family, and it's like all real, and all this is like really depressing, and they took it. I think they did it in a pretty good light, but admitting Chris kind of made me a little like iffy. That was kind of that poked holes in it, and I kind of dug a little deeper. And the main antagonist of the film is their father, Fritz von Erich, who pushes them to become these wrestlers, even though they might not fully want to. And you can definitely see like there's some scenes where it's like this guy is like a complete like evil guy. He doesn't really care about them. He more cares about the idea of them being successful. He continuously says like if we're strong enough, nothing can harm us. And then like the three of the brothers ended up killing themselves in real life, which is crazy. And I feel like if they handle it in a decently respectful way, but completely admitting one of the brothers, I think is crazy. Like they definitely shouldn't have done that. The director said that they took that out because they thought it made the movie too sad. Which, if anything, including that fourth brother, that fifth brother, well, six, because one of them died at a young age. That's the whole point of the film. It's supposed to be this like biopic about this really unlucky family and kind of like the reasons why they did the things they did and why they were led down paths of like depression and suicide because of the standards placed upon them, because the whole film is about that toxic masculinity, the whole idea of men can't cry, you can't really show pain or flaw or anything like that. It's talking about how that's not a healthy way of living and what happened to these people. And getting back to that, I think it handled that. It was a pretty good like they handled it pretty well. But overall, admitting Chris and some of the scenes, it kind of spelt it out for you a little too much, and they kind of villainized Fritz von Erich a little too much when in reality he wasn't that bad. Like the sons still chose to do this on their own accord. Sure, they were raised this way, but they still enjoyed their life. Like they enjoyed being wrestlers. Like that was still their calling. Except for Mike von Erich, I'm not too sure about him, but the three main brothers, like they still enjoyed wrestling. That still was like a big part of their life. And I feel like by making Fritz this kind of villainous character kind of takes away from that. And there are some positive messages when it comes to them about like being able to still stand against the tide. Like your world is crumbling in on itself, but you're still able to keep your chin up and keep pushing forward. And they kind of forewent that for doubling down on the theme about toxic masculinity and like that whole like problem that it's trying to explain and tackle. And I overall feel like that's a little bit, it discredits their life in a way that I think they should have handled a little better. Yeah, but overall, that's Ironclaw. Going into it, I had no idea what it was. I thought it was completely about wrestling. It is barely about wrestling. It is almost entirely about Kevin, David, Carrie, and Mike Von Erich. I like Jeremy Allen White. I watched a bit of Shameless. I liked The Bear, so I thought he was a great actor. He's probably the best in that. He's just a very charming personality, and you actually feel like sad for his character and for the real life person, especially how he loses his foot and everything like that. Zac Efron did a really good job. He plays like the kind of like, he's not a very intelligent character, but he has a lot of like complicated thoughts that you see are portrayed in a very very simple and doesn't spell it out until the end. That final scene is probably my least favorite scene, when it's like he's watching his kids playing and they're like, "Oh, we can cry. It doesn't matter." Like that spells it out too much for the audience. I feel like that was really on the nose. I didn't really like that scene. I thought that was kind of dumb. Like I was kind of chuckling when they said that. Yeah, I know that's bad because this is based on a real story, but still. Yeah, just overall, I feel like the movie was a little too on the nose. Its thematic elements were still really good though. My favorite scene would probably be like close to the beginning when the father says like, he's talking to David. He's like, my favorite kids go Carrie, then Kevin, then David, then Mike, and you. But the ranking can change. Like I thought that was really good because that immediately sets up like, okay, so this guy is a pretty bad guy. Like this is pretty much the antagonist. Like he's setting up these expectations for his children, and they're kind of trying to live through them. But again, they still enjoyed wrestling. It's not like they hated it. They loved the attention. They enjoyed the actual wrestling aspect of it, and it still was their dream. Especially Kevin, it still was his dream to actually become heavyweight champion. So, yeah, I feel like by villainizing Fritz so much, it takes away from that, again, that enduring aspect that they had. But yeah, if I were to rate it, I would give it a solid 8. Pretty like, yeah, pretty high 8. I thought that it definitely did certain things pretty well, but the acting in certain scenes wasn't great. I think it handled the thematic elements pretty well, especially with the toxic masculinity thing. I think honestly what takes this down for me is that this is genuinely based on real people, and it isn't super accurate to their actual lives. It, in a way, it captures it, but it's way dramatized and kind of, it kind of made the guy Kevin mad because they admitted Chris, they admitted certain elements of their lives that added kind of even more depth to it than what you see, because it takes this complicated concept and it makes it way too black and white. It makes it way too simple, and you don't really see both sides of it in a way that would have made it a little more nuanced. It kind of makes Fritz into the villain. It gives you someone to throw the darts at, and that's really, in my eyes, what kind of makes it not as great as it could be. My review comparison to Tomato Meter and Popcorn Meter, I gave it an 8. Tomato Meter's an 89, and Popcorn Meter's an 94. So I definitely gave it on the lower side. That's kind of a personal thing, but I'm not a gigantic fan of biographies. And overall, I thought, again, an 8 out of 10. I still think it's a really good film. I would definitely recommend it to people. I really enjoyed it. But overall, I feel like there's just certain aspects of it that could have handled a little bit better. But yeah, I'm going to quickly edit this together. Good night. Goodbye.